Hi people, welcome to Chess 24/7 and we are encountering another chess video. And in today's video I will be covering a special topic. In my usual videos I play blitz, but today I will be covering a kind of a tutorial. Well, this tutorial is mainly for beginners who have difficulty in identifying tactics. Today's video will be all about knight fox. In a game of chess, knight is the toughest piece to comprehend as it moves in a L-shaped direction. Although, due to its absurd movement, the knight is an optimum piece to give fox. Theoretically, a knight can attack 8 pieces at a given time, but it does not take place in real life games. In a real game, a knight can attack max 3 pieces at a given time. So today we will be looking at some instances where a knight fork can occur and how to identify it and to give fork. In this video, I will be covering 3 instances where we can encounter fork during a game. Initially, I will be using pawns to explain the concept, but once we get the concept, then we will be using pieces to see how the process works. Before starting this video, I would like you to know that this video is for beginners and people who would like to see a combination of math, a pattern going on, to be very specific, and chess. In short, a new method to give forks. With that said, let's get started. The first kind of category is diagonal pawns. In this case, the pawn on d5 and e4 are protecting each other. Not each other, but actually the d pawn is protecting the e pawn. Before I start explaining the concept, I would like you to understand one single terminology. It's called the base pawn. A base pawn is a pawn which is more closer to the base or the home of the army. In this case, the pawn on d5 is our base pawn as it's more closer to its home. What I mean to say is that we all know that the black army, the black pieces, start from the 7th and the 8th rank. In this case, our pawn on d5 is more closer to its home, so it's our base pawn. Now coming to the method, if you look at the pawns, they are diagonally connected to each other. In such situations, we have a simple pattern of numbers and alphabets going on. In this case, the pawns are on 4th and 5th rank, as you can clearly see. In this case, the pawns are on 4th and 5th rank, therefore a fork can be given using the 3rd and the 6th rank using a knight. The pattern over here is 3, 4, 5, the numbers in which they appear, 3, 4, 5 or 4, 5, 6. But now in order to decide on which file we have to give fork, for this purpose we look at our base pawn, that is d5. In order to decide the file, we can follow a pattern, a very simple pattern rather. In this case, we look at our base pawn, the pawn is on the d file. Since the pawns are on the E and D file, thus we can say that a fork can be given either on the C or the F file. The pattern here is the alphabetic arrangement of the files C, D, E or E, D, F, similar to our previous number pattern. In this case, the forking squares are C3 and F6. Moving on, the second instance is where our pawns are disconnected diagonally by 2 squares. Here we can look at our base pawn. In this case, it's c6 as the pawn is more closer to its base compared to the f pawn. Our base file is again c as our base pawn is on the c file and our base rank is 6 because our base pawn is on rank 6. Here we first determine our rank. It can be determined using our base rank. In this case, it is 6. We can either go in the forward directions 2 ranks, that is, we can go to the 4th rank, or we can go to one direction in the forward direction, that is the 5th rank. If we go 2 ranks in the forward direction, in this case we would go from 6th rank to 4th rank. Then we add one file from our base file. In this case, our base file is C, so we add a file, and in this case it would be the D file. So our forking square, one of the forking square would be D4. But if we go one file in the forward direction, that is the fifth file, then we have to add two files to our base file. In this case, our base file is the C file, and from C file we go to the E file, and our another forking square is the E5 square. The next and the last instance is the 4x4 square grid. When the pawns are in this 4x4 grid, here we apply the same concept. We again look at a base pawn, and in this case our base pawn is D6 since it's more closer to its home. If we look at our base pawn, the base file is the D file and the base rank is the sixth file. We then can either go in forward direction one rank or two ranks. If we go in the forward direction two ranks, that is, here in this case it would be the fourth rank, then we have to add one file. We have to actually move to the right side of our base file. In this case our base file is D, so we move in the right direction, that is the C file. In this case C4 would be one of our forking squares. But if we go in the forward direction only one rank, that is the fifth rank, then we have to move in the left directions and we have to add 2 to our base file. In this our base file is D, so our new file would be the F file, and the square would be, one of the square would be F5. Let's have a look at some of our examples. In this example we don't have pawns, rather we have rooks, but the concept works same. So if in this case our base piece or base pawn would be the rook on F6 since it's more closer to its home than the other rook. In this case we can follow a simple pattern of numbers. Since the rooks are on the 5th and the 6th rank, we can give a fork on the 4th rank or on the 7th rank, since the pattern is 4, 5, 6 or 5, 6, 7. Now in order to determine which file, we again look at our base rook, that is F6. The file is F, so again we can follow a pattern. So one of the file could be the D file, and because the pattern is DEF, or another file could be EFG. So in this case a fork can be given using the D file or the G file, and with that said, our forking square in this example would be G4 or D6. In this example we have the king and the rook separated by 2 squares diagonally, so a fork can happen. And to determine which squares can possibly lead to forking of these pieces, look at the base piece. In this, the base piece is the rook on F3 since it's closer to its home compared to the king. Thus here we can either go 2 ranks in the forward direction, or 1 rank in the forward direction. If we go 2 ranks in the forward direction, then we add 1 to our base file. In this case our base file is the F file since our base piece is on the F file. So in this case our forking square will be E5. But if we go 1 rank in the forward direction, then we have to add 2 files to our base file. In this case our base file is F file, so we reach to D file. So our another forking square is D4. In the final example we have the arrangement of pieces in a 4x4 square grid. So a fork can happen, and to determine the squares we again look at the base piece. In this case our base piece is the bishop on D6 since it's close to its base or its home. So now we can either go 2 ranks in the forward direction or 1 rank in the forward direction, and the base rank is 6, so we can either give fork using the 4th rank or using the 5th rank. Now in order to determine the file, we look at the base file, which is the D file, and then we can, if we go 2 steps, 2 ranks in the forward direction, then we have to move in the right direction of our base file. In this case, our base file is the D file. If we move right in the one direction, in the right side of a base file, we reach to C file. So one of our forking square is C4. Now again, if we move 1 rank in the forward direction, that is the 5th rank, then we have to move 2 spaces in the left direction of a base file. In this case, our base file is D, so if we move 2 spaces in the left direction, we reach to the F file. So another forking square is F5. Another way to look at this puzzle is that we have a pattern going on here, at least in the case of files. Since the pieces are on the D and E file, that means we can give a fork using the C file or the F file. The pattern over here is CDE or DEF. So one way is to determine the file is to look at the pieces and then go by the pattern. So that's a very simple way to look at pieces and to look how you can give forks to different pieces. But in order to determine the squares, you have to use mathematics, or you can use your vision also. But if you don't know how to give a fork, then definitely this video will be really helpful to you. And that's it for this video, and I hope you like this video, and if you did, then please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and see you in my next video. Till then, take care, tada, goodbye, good day.